Hi, I'm Amy Howard. Welcome to a Maker Studio. This workshop is going to be about rescuing and restoring furniture for beginners. So everything you always wondered about choosing a piece, what tools to use, how to clean your piece, and actually painting it, we're going to be addressing in this workshop. Let's go over the tools that you're going to be needing for this workshop. The first thing you're going to need is your furniture cleaner. Secondly, we're going to be working with our rescuing and restoring paint. Thirdly, you'll have a light antiquing wax, and then your synthetic brush for application. There are two items that you're going to be needing for this workshop that are not included in your box. That is going to be a lint-free rag, preferably two of them, and a screwdriver for taking off your hardware. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to clean our piece. Everyone that's at this workshop should have a door or a drawer to a piece of furniture that we're wanting to rescue and restore. So the first thing we need to do is remove the hardware. So you've taken off your hardware, and I really would make a suggestion that you need to get a bowl or a Ziploc bag and put all your hardware, the screws and the nails in it, because I cannot tell you how many times I've worked on pieces and I go back and I cannot find that nail, and it's going to be imperative that it's all put together. So put this aside, and I would put all of the hardware off the entire piece. On this chest that I'm working on, I actually have 4 drawers, so there was quite a bit. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to clean it, and you're going to use this special furniture cleaner. This is very important because depending on if you're maybe hacking on a brand new piece that you've done, or this is an existing kitchen cabinet or piece of furniture, there have been products used on this piece that can act as a surfactant. The great thing about this product is it will also take off wax. So maybe you're going to be painting and waxing your piece, and then in the future you want to change the color. I'm going to come back to this furniture cleaner, clean it off, and I'm ready to repaint it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lint-free rag. There we go. I'm going to take a lint-free rag, just turn it over like this, saturate the rag, and that's all I'm going to need to be able to do this drawer. So I'm going to just go in the same motion that I'm going to be painting it in, and getting all of this very clean. Now, if there are some areas that a piece of wood has chipped off, now's the time that you're going to need to come back with just a little wood filler, fill that in, lightly sand it. If your piece looks like this one does, then you're ready to paint. So on this project, I prefer that we work with the synthetic brush. You're going to be much happier how it's going to lay it down. All right, so now I've selected my tool and I've selected my color. I'm going to be working with a beautiful darker gray, which is Southern Gentleman. So you want to make sure that you just shake up your paint very, very well. But I do want to make sure that I am able to work on each surface fairly quickly. So I'm going to work on my piece a drawer at a time or a door at a time. If I'm working on the sides or the top, I want to make sure that I start on the top and finish it completely. So let's load your brush up. So starting at the edge, load your paint up and then brush it out as far as you can. Now as you start to see the paint break up just a little bit, flip your brush. Now look at the other thing that I'm doing. As I'm holding this brush, see how my hand is far enough down to the neck of it that I'm comfortable. You don't want to be holding up here, because that way the brush is going to have a tendency to turn. So holding it down close like this, I flipped it over, and then I'm going to go just a little further. Now as you start to see it break, it's time to load the brush up again. So loading it up, offloading it to where it's not dripping, and now I'll come back in. Now, see how you see this little puddle here? I may come down just a little further. I'll flip my brush over, go all the way down. As it starts to pull, I'll flip my brush over again. Now as it starts to pull and I see negative space, I'll load my brush back up with paint. And now I have one beautiful strip on my piece of furniture. Now I'm going to come back, and I'm working fairly quickly. going to lay it into that wet edge. If I have areas like that start to kind of puddle, I just hit very lightly. And you'll notice how lightly I'm holding the brush. It's not really tight because that allows me to come back in and feather it in. You know, the great part about it is painting furniture can be incredibly calming and very enjoyable. I think that's why I love the fact that y'all are in a gathering, whether virtually or all together, that you're able to enjoy this process. So see how I've gone back down here. Look at this little puddle of paint. I'm just going to come back in, lightly touch it. There's no need to go all the way down. I'll look at it from the side just to make sure that I got everything covered. Now, here's another tip. Make sure that you don't put on too much paint. A lot of people think if they put on more paint that it's better, but what can happen is it will actually have a tendency to crack. We don't want to put too much on, we just want enough coverage. If you're working with a lighter color on a darker drawer, it's going to take 2 or possibly even 3 coats. But the Rescue Restore paint dries very quickly, so allow about 15 or 20 minutes, and that way we're ready to put on the second coat. One thing that you want to make sure to do as well is to paint the edges of your piece. So I'll just come back, I loaded my paintbrush back up, and notice how I'm taking the brush and laying it on its side like this, and turning it over. It allows me to be able to get that edge. I still want to paint in long, clean strokes like I would, like if I was painting with the grain of the wood. I prefer not to paint against it like this, so just laying it down in nice, clean, smooth strokes. You know, another thing that's fun is to be able to paint the insides of the drawers. So maybe you want to come back and use one of our stencils to be able to have a pattern or a design. And it's also an opportunity to be able to use a secondary or maybe a third color just for accent or maybe a little surprise. In your workshop, if you'd like to go on and take a hairdryer and lightly blow dry this just a little bit for it to dry to put on the second coat, that's perfectly all right. Just make sure that you don't get the hairdryer too close to your surface. Stay at least 7 or 8 inches away. So now our paint is dry. We want to make sure that we're happy enough with the application. Remember, it's okay to be able to come back and apply a third coat. There's no need to be sanding in between. That's what makes it so great about the Rescue and Restore paint. So I've allowed it to dry and I'm ready to apply my wax. You know, another great thing about this paint is the fact that it's so different from any other paint that you're going to be using. Not only does it allow you to be able to use it on so many different surfaces, but it's going to be able to allow you to use a wax that's going to go down into the pigment and the finish on the paint, so that way when it dries and it comes to tack, you're going to be able to buff it to a beautiful, luxurious finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the cap here, and I'm going to take my second lint-free rag, and I'm going to apply just a little bit of the wax onto my rag. There's no need to use a brush. And laying it down on top of the surface like this, I'm just going to put it on in just a circular motion. So you see how quickly it goes on? It's literally like butter. You don't want to put too much on, but while at the same time you want to make sure that you have a good application. So I'm going to allow this to dry about 20 to 30 minutes. And if you're working outside later on this piece, make sure that it's not too hot. You want to make sure that the temperature is nice and controlled. So once your wax has come to tack, you're going to be able to touch it. It might still feel cool, but it's ready to be buffed. So now that we've buffed our piece down to a beautiful, luxurious finish, you do have an option. You can speak to your maker about applying a dark antique wax around the edges so you would if you want to be able to antique your piece. Otherwise, we're ready to apply our hardware. If you'd like, you can use the furniture cleaner that we used on our piece in the very beginning to clean the hardware, but you're ready to be able to come back and apply it. I'm going to paint the rest of my drawers, and now I'm going to have a gorgeous looking piece to be able to put in my entry hall. Hopefully doing this drawer or door tonight on your piece will show you that really the most difficult decision you're going to have to make is what color you're going to choose. And with a maker studio, we believe in crafting a beautiful life. So if you'll talk to your maker, they can share with you all the different products that we have and how you can transform your home into a place that is your haven and that you're proud to invite your friends and family over. I hope you can see just how easy it is to craft a beautiful life. We'll see you next time.